Manchester United Football Club have now won 13 consecutive games at Old Trafford under the leadership of Erik ten Hag. The job that this man has done cannot be understated, considering all the off-field drama and situations that he's had to deal with, which I don't think any manager in the Premier League, at least not this season, has had to deal with. I mean, you think about the Mason Greenwood situation, you think about the Jadon Sancho situation, both of which he inherited, right? Jadon Sancho was unable to play for Manchester United for a period of 3 months, and nobody knows what the reason is because it has not been publicly stated, and nor should it be, because it's probably something really private. On top of that, he had his best player, essentially the greatest player that Manchester United has ever had, one of at least, and arguably the greatest player that football has ever seen in Cristiano Ronaldo, publicly disrespecting him on a platform in front of millions of followers. Then on top of that, he still had to make difficult decisions like dropping Harry Maguire, despite getting asked and prodded and probed with questions week in, week out about what's happening with Harry Maguire. Will Harry Maguire start this week? The same old nonsensical questions by the English media, because obviously Maguire is one of the most protected players. And he has navigated all of those situations flawlessly. Also, he's developed a lot of players at Manchester United that we never imagined would be better. Marcus Rashford is the prime example. Yes, his form has a lot to do with his confidence and his own ability and him actually taking charge of his game. But I think a lot of it also has to be down to Erik ten Hag, because I think that Erik ten Hag has given Marcus Rashford the freedom and the license to play his game, the freedom to take people on, the freedom to be direct, and the freedom to be as selfish as he wants to be. I've seen a lot of Manchester United fans and rival fans actually say that Marcus Rashford has been very selfish and that there's often situations where he really should be passing. And whilst that may be true on the whole, I think in terms of the way Manchester United are trying to play right now, it's actually not an issue. If you look at that Manchester United team, Anthony Martial is struggling with fitness, even though he's arguably one of our best players. And generally speaking, when he's in the team, we play better. He's just not reliable. Anthony is struggling. He's out of sorts at the moment because obviously he's a very young lad who's just come from the Eredivisie into one of the hardest leagues in the world. So that's understandable. Jadon Sancho's had his own issues and Garnacho's only 18. So you look at that entire forward line and you think to yourself, where are the goals coming from? It's obviously from Marcus Rashford. And if Marcus Rashford is tasked with goal scoring, then he has to be selfish. He has to be as selfish as he can possibly be if he is going to score goals. And I think that is one of the primary factors, coupled with his confidence and coupled with the leadership of Benny McCarthy and Erik ten Hag. Those are the reasons why he is in such impeccable form. And today wasn't the best game from Marcus Rashford. I'll be honest. He wasn't that great today. There's a lot of questionable decisions that he made, but at the end of the day, he pulled through and he clutched up where it mattered most. And people will say that, Weghorst has played well for Manchester United considering his price tag and considering, the type of player that he is. I vehemently disagree. I think that Weghorst, if you're judging him as a £2 million player, sure, he's been all right. But I don't judge players on price tags. I judge players for their individual ability and what they bring to the team and whether or not they fit the system. And whilst Weghorst does fit the system in terms of his hold-up and his link-up play, I just don't think he's good enough. I think he's very mediocre. And today, Weghorst goes off, Rashford through the middle, Rashford scores. It's a very simple equation. I've been calling for Rashford to start through the middle since the injury of Anthony Martial for a while now. In fact, our last game against Arsenal, and our game, I can't remember who we played between Arsenal and Crystal Palace because there's just been so many fixtures, but I called specifically, I did a live stream with All for United, and I specifically said I would play Rashford through the middle because I think that Weghorst, although he brings a lot into the team in terms of pressing and in terms of working hard off the ball and off ball movements generally, also just on the ball being somebody who's good at hold up and link up, I don't think he's on the same wavelength as Anthony and Rashford, and therefore I feel like these three cancel each other out. And so for me, I would play Rashford through the middle, Garnacho on the left, and Anthony out on the right, or even Bruno out on the right, because I thought Bruno has actually done a good job out on the right recently when he's been asked to play there. That's just my opinion. People don't have to agree with it. That's just generally what I think. Moving on, obviously Casemiro got booked today and got sent off for the second consecutive time against Crystal Palace. Casemiro has somehow got himself sent off and got himself a suspension. It's unbelievable when you actually think about it. A player of Casemiro's ilk and Casemiro's quality to make such a foolish mistake twice in a row against the same opposition within a matter of days. It's just mind-boggling. But am I upset at Casemiro? Not really. It was a silly mistake and it was very foolish. But in hindsight, I actually think that, you know what? It could be a blessing in disguise because now at least he gets to rest. And I know that's a silly thing to say, and it sounds like I'm making excuses, and it sounds like I'm trying to spin a negative into a positive, which I am. But I think Casemiro has been so brilliant for us that I'm willing to give him a pass. Casemiro makes one mistake, well, two mistakes against the same team within a couple of days, and suddenly everything good that he's brought to this team goes out the window. Screw that. I think Casemiro has been genuinely the reason Manchester United's midfield looks competent this season. And he has been at the epicenter of everything good for Manchester United this season. So I'm not going to turn my back on him because of one mistake. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I think Casemiro has been brilliant. And yeah, it's a foolish mistake. Yeah, it's not ideal. But still, I still think that he's been so good that him making a mistake is not the end of the world. He is human at the end of the day. And to be honest, there were some Crystal Palace players who also did some very questionable things while that fight was happening between Anthony and I forget which Crystal Palace player, right? There were so many videos on Twitter floating around of Fred also getting choked around his neck, and nothing happened to the Crystal Palace player, but Casemiro got sent off. But anyways, I don't like to talk about referees, so we'll move on. Let's talk about Garnacho, because he's another player who gets overly criticized for how direct he is. Similar to Marcus Rashford, he's another player who gets criticized for not looking up and playing the extra pass, finding someone on the overlap. And these are definitely concerns for the long-term development of Garnacho. But I think in the short term, it's things that I don't really care about, because this kid is 18 years old and he's playing in the Premier League for the first time in his life. He's playing competitive men's football at the highest level, at the pinnacle of competitive football in Europe. Apart from the Champions League, the Premier League is the creme de la creme. And we're expecting this kid to come in and make good decisions. We're expecting this kid to come in and be mature enough to take the weight of Manchester United, to take the expectations of an entire fan base and put them on the back of his shoulders and make good decisions and play like a seasoned professional. It's just not realistic. I think Garnacho is doing exceptionally well considering his age and considering the level of experience he has, especially when you compare him to some of our other younger players. I think Anthony Elanga, compared to Garnacho, is mediocre. Garnacho makes him look mediocre. Garnacho has that special something, that special je ne sais quoi that I can't quite describe, but he brings something to the table that Manchester United have not had in a young player since Marcus Rashford came through the academy, and that is he just makes things happen, whether it's an assist, a goal, a chance created, or just his electric pace on the counter, winning us free kicks, winning us corners, and just making things happen in a tangible way. There is just something special about that kid, and I'm honestly in love with him. But anyways, moving away from individual performances, the game itself wasn't great. Manchester United started off pretty well. We controlled the game for the first 20 minutes, for the first half an hour. But after going 1-0 up because of the penalty, I don't think there was anything really to discuss about that game. It was just a bit of back and forth between Crystal Palace. There were moments up until half-time where I thought to myself, man, if we don't get a second goal, we're going to be in trouble. And so it came to pass. Crystal Palace scored. We only won because of our 2-goal cushion, because for the last 20 minutes after Casemiro got sent off, we were defending for our lives and we still conceded a goal. Imagine if we didn't get that second goal. Imagine if Marcus Rashford doesn't score that goal. Imagine if Weghorst stays on the pitch, Garnacho doesn't play out wide, and we don't score that goal. We're sat here talking about how we drop points again to Crystal Palace. But because of the decision to bring Garnacho on, to take Weghorst off, to play Rashford through the middle, and subsequently the way the rest of the game played out, somehow Manchester United were able to hold on. And this is the thing. Like for me, why I was so upset when we lost to Crystal Palace, or drew, it feels like a loss, when we drew to Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, was because we just couldn't find the second goal. And if we had found that second goal, everything would have been all right. Everything would have been all right. But I guess it doesn't matter now because everything is all right now. I'm looking at the Premier League table. Manchester United are comfortably in the top 4, 2 points ahead of Newcastle, who I believe are playing right now. And as things stand, we will stay 2 points ahead of them unless they win. Now, if they win, we go back down to 4th, which is okay because we're 7 points or 8 points. No, we're 6 points clear. Pardon me. 6 points clear of Tottenham, who are obviously in 5th. And we have a comfortable, I would say, a comfortable chance of making top 4. Of course, things could change. Things could go terribly wrong, but from where I'm sitting at right now, I think I'm comfortable with saying that Manchester United are going to finish in the top 4. And if we don't, oh well, I guess I was wrong. But yeah, man, what a time to be a Manchester United fan. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace.